It's Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. A lot to talk about today. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you share these videos. But I want to get right into it. And I want to start by saying this today. Before we talk about any of the news, anything happening with the economy, things that are happening socially, be extremely thankful for everything you have. Thank God tonight for everything you have. I came out of the grocery store today, and a very unfortunate incident took place. Came out, there were about 10 police cars, paramedics, fire truck, just lots of emergency response. Apparently a gentleman was driving down one of the roads, Country Club it's called, in Palm Desert, and looked like he had a heart attack. He was able to veer his 4x up over the median and stop it. And they were there for a long time just pumping this man's chest, trying to resuscitate him. And it did not look good. And more than likely, unfortunately, unless a miracle took place, and I hope it did, I pray to God that it did, that he survived this, but they were there an awful long time trying to resuscitate this man, and there was no response. So it just reminds me, and I want to remind all of you, be thankful today for another day of life. Thankful for your family members, thankful for friends, thankful for a good church, thankful if you have a job today, thankful if you're eating, thankful if you have a roof over your head. Doesn't matter if you're living in somebody's garage, living in the basement, sleeping on a couch, you have a roof over your head. And if you ate today, you're better off than most of the world, and thank God. So it doesn't matter about what zip code you live in. It doesn't matter how fancy your car is. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Thank God for another day of life. Thank God for every little thing you have. We take a lot for granted, ladies and gentlemen, a lot for granted. And my heart and my prayers go out to this gentleman and his family. I pray to God that they resuscitated this guy. It did not look good, but it just reminds me and reminds all of us how precious life is. And most of all, this life is very temporary right here on earth. Know where you're going after this. This is a very, very short ride. And once we leave here, make sure you know where you're going. Most of all, we can talk about money. We can talk about gold. We can talk about food. We can talk about preparations. But the biggest preparation you better have is knowing where you're going when you leave this earth. So I'm going to leave it with that. And I want to talk about some of the news today. If you hear any snoring, Nugget's over on the floor. She's passed out. She gets pretty loud. And I'm really thankful to have Nugget. What a great little dog she's been. And quite a great addition to the family. But let's talk about some of the articles today that I printed out. I'm going to share these with you. Comment down below. Tomorrow, I believe we get the CPI number. Is it going to be better, or is it going to be worse, or is it going to be somewhere in the middle? I have no idea. This is so manipulated. You just never know what's going to happen. But where do you think the CPI is going to come in? Are we going to get an improvement? Is inflation going down? Are they going to be able to manipulate the numbers and get these markets to rally tomorrow? Or are we going to get more bad news? This doesn't sound good. New York Fed President John Williams says rates could be increased if inflation doesn't come down. He says, we haven't said we are done raising rates. We're going to find out tomorrow. But I believe that we have 1 to 2 more rate hikes, and it's not going to do anything. It's going to continue to wreck households, wreck business. It's just not going to do anything because we're spending too much money. The Fed's raising rates at one end, and we're printing money. We're bailing out banks. We're sending money all over the world. We're spending money like crazy, and I don't know how you can confront inflation when you're spending this amount of money. Here's another one from Fox Business. Small business optimism sinks in April to lowest level in a decade. Sentiment fell to the lowest level in 10 years. And they attribute this to some problems. Labor quality. Think about the quality of labor out there right now. If you go out to eat, or you go to a restaurant, you go anywhere pretty much, it seems like people don't even want to work. Labor costs. You're paying more for labor, you're getting less quality. Tighter credit conditions, higher interest rates. And of course, one of the worst ones here is the consumer is tapped out. And this is going to be really, really bad news for any business, small, medium, or large. The consumer is tapped out. And the consumer is going to hit a brick wall here very, very soon. And when they tap out those credit cards and the payday loans, there's nowhere left to go. Here's another one today. Sticker shock, new car prices up 19% over the last couple years. From March 2021 through March 2023, new vehicle prices have increased 19.4%. The average price of a new car right now is $48,008. Here's one from the Hedge today. New vehicle affordability challenging amid soaring auto loan rates. Average monthly payment for a new car right now, get this, is reaching $754. I mean, you used to be able to rent a decent place years back in Orange County for $1,000. Not any longer. $754 just for the average new car payment. Average 60-month loan is going to cost you nearly 7.5%, 7.48% to be exact. The record was 7.82% back in August of 2008. First quarter of 2022, a 60-month loan on a new car was 4.5%. So we're seeing an increase of 3%. 3% from 2022 first quarter to where we are right now in 2023. It's amazing. We have now had 24 months of negative wage growth while auto prices are at all-time highs, household debt at all-time highs, household credit card debt at all-time highs, interest on those credit cards at all-time highs. The average household in America now is being obliterated. And it is hard to understand this because you go out and people are walking around, they're driving around, they're at the restaurants, they're at the bars. But you know, a lot of this is all being put on the credit cards, ladies and gentlemen. All being put on credit cards. People, I think, just figure either there are people out there, no doubt, that have money, can afford to party and eat well. But I think there's a lot of people out there also that are just going, hey, we're just going to blow out our credit cards and worry about it later. I really think that a lot of people are just being absolutely reckless now. They don't even care. They'll figure it out later. Here's one from the Hedge. California defaults on $18.4 billion in debt, now saddling employers with the expense. I haven't heard much of this on the news, but more trouble for California. California has decided not to pay back some $20 billion borrowed from the federal government to cover unemployment benefits during the health crisis. And this will now fall on the shoulders of employers. This is just another problem for employers in California. California hates business owners. It really does. It hates small business. It hates big business. And you have to think about this. If California can default on $20 billion of federal loans, how safe are those California municipal bonds right now? Can they default on those? I mean, think about that. If they can default on $20 billion of federal debt and just slap it on to California employers, how safe are those municipal bonds here in California? We look at the debt in California now. I believe it's approaching near $2 trillion. And we look at our pensions here in California, unfunded. I believe CalPERS is unfunded by nearly $800 billion, $600 to $800 billion, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's shocking what is happening right now. It really is. We're running business out of California, just running it out to other states, chasing it out. We're chasing people out of the state of California. And now we're running this huge debt, this huge deficit in California. How is this going to be paid back? What are they going to do about the pensions here in California, especially CalPERS, that takes care of the teachers, the firemen, the police, very unfunded. Where's the money going to come from to fund these pensions? You know, if you're in California and you have a pension here, you better think about what's going to happen in the next 10 years. Is it even going to exist? Will you get half of it? Will you get 25% of it? Don't rely on the system, ladies and gentlemen. You better have a plan. You better be putting away, because I believe a lot of these pensions across the U.S. are going to take massive massive haircuts. Wolfstreet.com. What are older office towers worth? Now, let's talk about this office tower at 350 California Street in San Francisco. We mentioned this about a week ago. It's in the financial district. Union Bank purchased the building years ago for, I think, about $300 million. In 2020, it listed the building for $250 million. No buyers. They pulled the listing in 2022. 2023, they relisted it at $120 million. Well, good news. They just made a deal for $60 million with SKS Real Estate Partners and a South Korean-based company, Genesis. So the building sold for nearly, I don't know, 75, 80% off. This is really bad news for banks. I don't even think people even realize how bad the commercial real estate market is about to fall. And this is another prime example of where it's at. Many of these banks have a lot of commercial real estate on their books, and they have not realized yet that these properties are not worth what they were purchased for 3 or 4 years ago. And there are going to be massive losses that are going to take place in commercial real estate. And that's a shocking number. Literally 80% off. That's what they estimated the property to sell for. It looks like they're in escrow. But think about a building just a few years ago purchased at $300 million, selling for $60 million. And people don't believe that the housing market is going to see the same thing. They just don't believe that something that can sell for this amount of money a few years ago can sell for this amount of money a few years later. People have very, very short memories. Here's one from MarketWatch. Airbnb stock falls sharply on cautious forecasts and record bookings miss estimates. After hours, they were down 11%. And this is going to be, I think, another problem as people begin to not book their Airbnb properties. A lot of people got into this, basically the hotel business, buying homes and getting in the hotel business. What happens when people don't rent these homes for weekends? People are going to be unloading these properties. And think about who has the money now, except maybe 10% of the population, maybe 20% of the population has the money to go out and buy a car, maybe the money to go out and, rent an Airbnb home for a few days. But what about the rest of the population who is paycheck to paycheck? 60, 70% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. Half the country doesn't have $400 in cash saved up. So who is going to rent all these homes through Airbnb? I think we're going to see travel numbers way down this year. I just don't think people, for the most part, can afford to travel on vacation. And I think this is another barometer right here of the economy and the housing market. Just think about how many homes were purchased just to rent out on weekends. We are sitting on a huge landmine here, ladies and gentlemen, that is about to go off. And here's one from patch.com. Sid sent this to me about an hour ago. And again, it just shows the decay of California, the decay of the U.S. economy, the decay of society. It's just horrible what is taking place. Here's the title: Riverside County homeless population swells, new report finds. Now, I'm in Riverside County. It's a huge county. Renters in Riverside County, get this, need to earn $34.44 per hour. That's 2.3 times the state's minimum wage to afford a monthly rent of $1,791. And let me tell you, you're not going to rent much at $1,791. The homeless population in Riverside County increased 12% last year. We have nearly, and that's last year, we have nearly, it says here, nearly 4,000 people homeless in Riverside County. I guarantee you the number is much higher than that. These numbers are extremely conservative. There's a lot of people living in vans, sleeping in their cars that are not being counted. But there are a lot of things that contribute to why people are homeless and why people are homeless here in Riverside County. Mental illness, probably number one. Increasing rental costs, family breakdown, Lack of churches doing their job. Where are the churches, ladies and gentlemen? Where are the churches? You know, when we go out to help out some of the homeless people, feed them, feed their animals, very rare do I ever see, I'm not going to say I've never seen it, I have, but it's very rare to see a church out there or to see a pastor out there helping these people. It really is. And what a shame that is. What a disappointment it is that the churches are not out there on the streets helping people, passing out some blankets, passing out some clothes or some shoes or some food. Really, what are they doing with all their money? What are these churches doing with all their money? Comment down below. Family disruptions. There's a lot of abuse going on. There's a lot of divorce going on. And so a lot of people have no choice but to hit the streets. And right now, I believe California is seeing a humanitarian crisis in regards to the homeless crisis that is taking place. And the numbers are much higher than we're being told. People really need help. I'm not going to sit here and judge people why they're on the streets. Some people, yes, want to be there. There's no doubt about it. But there's a lot of people that didn't choose to be there, don't want to be there, and need help. And I just don't believe you ignore people, no matter whatever their condition and their addictions, their mental illness. I mean, if people have mental illness, it's not their fault. They still shouldn't be sleeping on sidewalks. They shouldn't be sleeping in a cardboard box. They should be getting some help. They should be sleeping in a secure environment, a clean environment, because this is just really not clean. You think about the diseases out there, the typhus outbreaks that we've had, the hepatitis outbreaks we've had. People just should not be, on the streets. It's terrible sanitation. It's not good for the public to be walking around that. It's not good for these homeless people to be sleeping in this. So something has to be done. But this is what's being done. I'm going to finish with this last article. We're going to provide another $1.2 billion to Ukraine. Now, I'm not sitting here getting political. We are just talking facts. We are talking numbers. We are talking economics. We are talking about social problems. So we're going to give another $1.2 billion in long-term security aid to Ukraine. Wow. Riverside County has 4,000 plus people. It's probably closer to 10,000. LA County, probably close to 100,000 homeless. San Diego County, San Bernardino. We have so many homeless people in California, and we have homeless people across America. It's blowing up everywhere. And yet we're going to send another $1.2 billion to another country. And we have so many problems right here. Crime is running absolutely wild in the streets. We got people now, more people than ever living in the streets, having to deal with this crime. They're victims of crime. And there's just so many other places right now in this country that need money and need support. And we have so many people that are not getting enough food, food insecurity, too many kids not getting enough food. There's just so many problems happening socially right here in America. And I read this article about another $1.2 billion leaving and going somewhere else when it should be right here helping people right here, right now. It's absolutely disgusting, ladies and gentlemen. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Comment down below about anything. What do you think about us sending more money over there? What do you think about the homeless crisis? What do you think about the CPI numbers tomorrow? Are they going to come in better than expected? Will it just be flat, or is inflation still rising? And how rigged and manipulated will the numbers be tomorrow? Let me know your thoughts on it. But it is a sad state of affairs for this country with what is happening. It just literally leaves me speechless. And every day, people could say this is repetitive. Look, I'm just printing out articles every day as they come. All this news is less than 24 hours, most of it. Maybe some of it's 24 or 48 hours. But most of this is everything that I just printed within the last couple hours. And it just does not seem to be improving. There is no light at the end of the tunnel at this point. And I see nothing but a major depression on the horizon, a depression that has already begun, a depression that we're in right now. And it is going to get much, much more worse. And you must be preparing for this. I don't want to see anybody watching this video today end up on the streets. I don't want you to become homeless. So be cautious where you're spending money, who's in charge of your money, where you're putting your money. You need to be very, very in control right now of your money. Your financial advisor may not be as smart as you think. Your financial advisor may not be looking out for your best interests. You need to be very, very careful right now. Get the debts paid down, get out of debt ASAP. That's extremely important. Be walking close to God. Make sure you have security. Again, so many people out here talking about the end of the world and the economic collapse. It's going to be a bad time. There's no doubt about it. The world's not going to end, but it is going to change. And many of you are going to be on your own, and you're going to have to protect yourselves. You're going to have to protect your families. You're going to have to protect your assets. A cell phone is not going to cut it. A camera at your house is not going to cut it. You better have the right tools and the right training. I don't want to see anything bad happen to any of you whatsoever.